Ever wish a podcast would explain how to get better faster from the standpoint of longevity, biohacking, and personalized functional medicine? Co-hosts Dr. Jason Bradley and James Chester, along with executive producer Rachel Bradley, bring you the Get Better Faster podcast. Their mission is radically simple: to revolutionize health by connecting people with the experts, technologies, and protocols that mainstream medicine ignores. Because people deserve to get better faster.
All right. Hello, Get Better Faster Nation. I am Dr. Jason Bradley, and along with my co-host, the one and the only James Chester, and our incredible executive producer, Rachel Bradley, who's beautiful, by the way, we want to welcome you to another exciting episode of the Get Better Faster podcast. Today, we're joined by someone who truly embodies the principle that health is the new wealth. Tony Torres, my friend, and also International Federation of Bodybuilding pro, entrepreneur, and true Spartan warrior, and a devoted father of two awesome boys. Over the past 25 years, Tony has overcome personal challenges that would have stopped most people in their tracks and has built an empire around transformation, from opening healthy restaurants to hardcore gyms to becoming a professional bodybuilder and even having a movie made about his life. He's the owner of Iron Temple Gym in Miami, one of Florida's premier hardcore training facilities, and the creator of the infamous Spartan body formula that, and I love this, and maybe I need this, transform fat dads into fit dads in record time. Hey, without further ado, Tony, my friend, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much for having me, guys. I appreciate your time.
Yeah, I had a chance to meet you at the Titans event out in Boise, and I knew that eventually we would reconnect again, so it's divine timing, yes. And I'm happy to have you on to the Get Better Faster show today.
Thank you. Here we are. Yep.
And Jason said 25 years, man. 2.5 decades of expertise in opening restaurants and running gyms and creating programs to dads from fat to fit. And I think it's pretty cool what you're doing. When did you realize that you had a knack for it? When did you say, hey, I'm going to start helping people with my superpower and get them back into the body that they have always wanted or they deserve?
I first realized that when I started preparing for a bodybuilding show, and I was able to take myself from being 60 pounds overweight to going to like 4% body fat in a specific amount of time, at a specific hour, at a specific minute that I had to be on stage. Right, because an hour before or an hour after, and you lose what we call the peak, where you look your best. And in bodybuilding shows, if you miss your peak, it's the difference between first place and last place. So I learned there that if I can tweak this, not only to me, but to anybody else, then I think I got something good. Because if doing it for a bodybuilder is extremely difficult, but when you switch that to going into a lifestyle individual, it's that much easier.
I just want to say, after hearing that, Tony, I think I either passed my peak or missed my peak. So I just want to say too that when we were in the green room before the show, and I've had the pleasure of knowing Tony for a while now. We're part of a mastermind group together, and I mean, he's just an incredible fellow. But in the green room, I was saying, I think most of my questions are really about me, because I am literally the guy that Tony, wants to work with and works with and has helped out. So if you don't mind, I just want to jump right in, Tony, and just say, you've been doing all of this stuff. When did you know that you had put together, how did you put this together, your Spartan body formula that helps people get better faster and attain the body that they're looking for? Sorry about butchering that question, everybody.
That's okay. That's okay. I get it. Look, everybody wants to get in shape. Everybody wants to get in the best shape of their life. Not only that, but you hear everybody in the barbecue saying, well, when I was in college, when I was this, when I was that, right? They always go back to the past of when I was, instead of putting themselves in the position where if I was, then I could. If I did it once, I can do it again. The difference between back then and now is us as men and sometimes women, things change through the years. Hormones don't react the same. The skin doesn't fit the body the same. We don't eat the same, and our metabolism shifts really, really fast. When I realized that I can make this happen in record time was I had a girl that used to come to the gym, and she was really distraught, and I noticed that, and I asked her, what what's going on? Like, why do I see you so like stressed out and so back and forth? She goes, well, I have a photo shoot on the beach in a week and I still have to lose 17 pounds. And knowing what I know, I said, well, I can't guarantee that you'll lose 17 pounds, but I guarantee from now to then, you'll look the best you ever looked in 7 days. And she goes, you think so? I was like, there's only one way to find out and you got nothing to lose because who else is going to help you? And she goes, all right, let's try it. And we did. And that week she lost 18 pounds in 7 days and was able to go there. And then I started thinking, wow, I did this for this girl. Imagine what I can do to others. And then so I experimented on me. I said, I'm going to do this experiment where I'm going to start a transformation and see how much in how short a period of time I can do this. And I was able to do it in 60 days, 40 pounds. And right there, I knew, I said, and I stopped it because I didn't like the way my neck was looking. You know, I started looking real like cracked out and I don't like the look. So I upped it. I gained another 3 pounds and that's where I stood. So anything's possible. You know, if you're willing to do what it takes to get there. And a lot of it, most lifestyle folks can't, since they're not used to it, they have a hard time sticking to it. You know, they start to get these things, these hunger pangs, these, you know, and it's just a lot of mental barriers that they have to overcome. That way they can just go to the next level.
Yeah. And I think, James, I'm going to pass it over to you in a second, but Tony, I was on a call with you with the World Changers, a great group of people. They're world changers, for the love of God. And you were talking a little bit about this, and I find it interesting. One of the things that you said is sticking to things. I mean, that's one of the hardest things I think anybody has, is just creating a new habit, creating new structure and process, and then falling off the bandwagon. And the hardest thing is getting back on that bandwagon. But I remember what you said on that World Changers call. You basically said everybody's going to fall off the bandwagon. I mean, everybody is, but you're going to learn to get back on more quickly, and you're going to learn how to get your results back more quickly. Every time you fall off, it's just an opportunity to get back on and do it again. So I want to thank you for that. I want to pass this over to James. I know he's got some questions that he meant to open with, but I'll be honest with everybody. I stole his thunder. So I apologize. Listen, you know what? I popped the cork, man. I got excited to chat with you. So I'm going to pass it right over to James.
Well, I'm just interested, you know, we were talking off camera about Avatar. Mm-hmm. And I was like, I think Jason, you know, opened up with, I think we're both your Avatar client. So I think that I'm not a dad, Jason's a dad, but why did you decide that dads were important to you? Why did you decide that it was important to make healthy men?
And I'm not the only dad that's happened to. I said, if it happened to me, for sure, it's happened to other dads. I'm laying on the couch one time and, you know, boys or kids in general, just so happens that I have 2 boys, but the kids in general, they don't know when they say things. They don't say it maliciously. So they don't know they're hurting your feelings. They don't know they're creating some sort of thing in you when they tell you things. They just say it because they're honest. They know how to speak honestly, right? And so my son runs over to me. He was probably about 7, and he goes like this, and he jumps, and he goes right into my belly. I'm laying down without a shirt. He goes, boom. He goes, Dad, you're looking like Grandpa. And I was like, Grandpa? He goes, yeah, look at your belly. And that right there, it almost like it damages me. It damaged me. And I said, my kids were raised with me in the gym. So for this kid to say that I don't look like Superman anymore and I look like his granddad, that's a problem. Now, kids nowadays, with the way things are going now, kids need their dads not to look like their granddads. They need their dads to look like superheroes. And when you look around, and I go to take my kids to the park, I see dads with their kids sitting on the bench, belly this far out, texting, not focusing on the kids. Kids are running around, running amok, where I'm with my kids on the fake grass, playing with them on the slides. And I'm looking at these guys like, wow, when did the connection get lost here? Now, these kids are looking for superheroes, and guess what they're going to do? At some point, they're going to find somebody else to look up to. And a lot of the times, it's not the right person. By the time the dad realizes this is not the guy that I want my son emulating, it's too late, you know?
I remember on a call also, you said, and I don't remember exactly what you said, but this is what stuck in my head. You're like, and you want your wife to look at you like Superman, because if she's not looking at you like Superman, she might be looking at the guy cutting the grass next door like Superman. And I was like, holy crap, I got up my game. Because my wife's beautiful. I'll be the first one to say I don't deserve her at all. I don't know how that happened.
There was a time where your wife walked through the door or waited for you to walk through the door and would jump on top of you. Does she still do that? And if not, why not? There's no reason why she shouldn't be able to. The man lets himself go because he thinks, oh, she's mine. I got the baby. I'm good. They're not going to go anywhere. They may not go anywhere, but they were going out with somebody else, somewhere else. So men, they got to get their shit together. Unfortunately, they don't understand this concept that as soon as you let yourself go, you're no longer the person she fell in love with or the image of that person, right? Mm-hmm. Because when we meet somebody, let's face it, it's all visual. You got seconds to make that impression. And, who would you rather look at immediately, right? You're looking at a beautiful woman or the lady in the corner with a cup shaking quarters, right? It's a visual thing. Unfortunately, we get judged on what we look like the first seconds when we come across somebody. And I like to make that impression fit, dotting my I's, crossing my T's, making sure everything's together for regular daily things. And especially if you're an entrepreneur or sales, the people who buy from you are going to make that decision where they're going to buy from you because of the way you look, period. It's all they got going as soon as they see you.
Go ahead, James.
No, I think that there's a whole avatar that we were talking about, and it sounds like one of the solutions is potentially eating better. So one of the things that you've done is become a restaurateur. When did you say, damn, if I'm going to work with people and get them healthy, I have to make sure they're eating real food? And your solution sounds like was like opening a restaurant to make sure that you're feeding people the real food. But because if I'm going to just like rub on the crystal ball, look into the future that you were looking at the same time, you're probably like, well, I have to meal prep for these people that I'm training. And if I'm going to make the impact that I'm going to get them in the gym, they have to get 80% of it in the kitchen. And if they're not doing the 80% in the kitchen, then I have to be their 80% so they get their 100%. Am I right or wrong?
You're 100% right. The body is made in the kitchen. The reason why I came across, restaurants and wanting to become a chef, and it's funny how things happen in life. When you said that there was a movie made about me, the movie was made about how I ended up in prison for 5 years. And in prison, right before they were about to let me go, they said, hey, you've been a model, inmate. We want to offer you an opportunity to do something different outside. And I chose to go to culinary school, and they paid for my culinary school, full ride. And I went to culinary school, and I said, the place that I feel that I can make a dent is in a hot area where people are half naked all year round and they need to look good. And my restaurant is going to be a healthy restaurant. So it was called Muscle Maker Grill. And and the slogan was great food with your health in mind.
I love that. Go ahead.
So you took people on a journey and transformed them because you found your way to clarity because of incarceration. I had no idea. So after 5 years gap of being away from society, what was it like for you to re-plug back in and to actually do something meaningful?
I always knew I was doing and going to continue to do meaningful things, only because while I was in there, I studied under the Czech Institute, Corrective Holistic Exercise Kinesiology, where it went beyond muscles and now went to correcting your physiology, the way you stand, your joints, your bones, your lordotic, hyperlordotic, that kind of stuff. Because if the structure is off, building muscle on a structure that's damaged, you're going to look like a hot mess, right? Mm. So one thing leads to the other. And if you have one thing's bad, it's going to screw everything else up. So the frame has to be straight. It's like the car of a chassis. You get into an accident, the chassis is bent, the car will never ride the same. It's the same thing with a human body. You got, stuff that's not aligned properly. You build muscles, tight muscles, pull this forward, and now the back muscles are stretched and long, and you just got to even everything out so that, you have a good, straight, I guess, spoke to work with. And so coming out of there, the first thing I did was get a job, but in a gym, and then applying everything I learned in the 5 years that I learned in prison to the people who were out in the gym, which, by the way, you ask someone to walk in front of you, they're disasters, and they don't realize it because they've been doing it for so many years, messed up. You know what I mean?
I just wanted to say, and you're on the right call with the right guy. I think James knows every single chiropractor in possibly the world, or at least the United States. And when I hear things like building muscle on a structure that's damaged isn't a good idea, the frame has to be straight and aligned. All that I'm thinking is, Tony, I can't imagine the chiropractors that would want to work with you down in the Miami area. I mean, what a great synergy, what a great combination.
Yeah, it's I would say it's a match made in heaven, only because, again, you can't have one without the other.
And I'm going to spin it differently. So you were locked up.
Yes.
So most of these people are living in a prison of their own body.
Yes, 100%.
And you get a chance now to appoint them to culinary school. Now you can give them their pardon to go out there and to find the thing that releases them from their personal prison, which is their body. And I think that there's a lot of correlation there, is that most of these people walk around, like you said, if you watched them from behind, they look like disasters. And I think that there's a huge purpose in this conversation today, because I look at people all the time and they have micro traumas and they have foot flares and they have a low shoulder, and they tell me everything's fine. And I'm like, well, looking at them, I'm like, I can see you have scoliosis. Like, do you have scoliosis? Oh yeah. How did you know? Because I'm looking at your body and you have a low shoulder and you're rotational in your hips. And I think that becomes another thing that you have to do, is you have to decode the deficiency in order to build them up to maximum output. Yes. How do you find those holes in their game and start fixing them?
Well, like you can tell by seeing it. I can't tell to that degree, but I know when something's wrong, and I know it's not muscle, right? so when you see somebody I tell a young lady, when you have a large Q angle, and she's looking at me like, Q angle, what's that? And now I have to explain, that what the Q angle is and how it can damage the knees when she's doing a lunge incorrectly, right? You have the knees trailing to the left, in the opposite side, and now you have shear forces going through the knee, and in a year or two, she's not gonna be able to walk because the knees are all banged up because she's doing lunges wrong with a wide Q angle, which is not a good thing for women, especially women, because they're quad dominant, and they're doing these things all wrong. So as a trainer, their education can't just stop at muscles. They have to go deeper, into not so much be a chiropractor, but at least have some sort of education on how the bones are supposed to be aligned and what's off and what's not off.
Well, this tees me up perfectly. The Spartan body formula. I'm sure that this is how it all happened. You realize that people were a disaster. You realize that they weren't eating right, so you got the kitchen game going. You saw that the deficiencies in their biomechanics. So then you said, well, how can I bring this full circle and make a deliverable? So tell us what the Spartan body formula really is.
The Spartan body formula, I kind of envelop in the 3M method, which is the first M is mindset, because without the proper mindset, you're not going to have the motivation to do anything, the motivation to stick to anything. You're just going to be like you said, you're a prisoner in your own body, not knowing that you can get out of that, set yourself free just by being a little mindful of what things are literally killing you in the kitchen or killing you by lack of doing certain things. So you got the mindset, you have your muscles, which are things we're going to go work on, provided your frame is proper. If not, we're going to have to make some adjustments. And then when you have your mindset, your muscles attached, and everything is good to go, by default, if you're an entrepreneur or somebody or 9-to-5er, you're going to start getting better things coming at you via promotion because you look better, sales because you look better. So everything falls into place by just fixing yourself. Question?
They call that the halo effect.
The halo effect.
Yep. Is when you look better, you make more money and you get better opportunities. And I think that it's by default from your systems. You get the halo effect.
Yes, absolutely. Jason?
It's just mindset, muscles, and
money.
Okay, I thought that. I wanted to hear you say that, and I might have glitched out there for a minute. So yeah, that's
3M method. Yeah, and because a lot of the my avatar, they're entrepreneurs. To them, they're so focused on money that everything else falls apart, right? go to the best places, they eat the best foods, not knowing that the best tasting foods aren't necessarily the best foods.
Well, I think it's really interesting too. I mean, the three of us have access to some pretty high level entrepreneurs that have done, amazing things, right? Yes. And when I talk to them, I mean, they're all about improving themselves. It's all about, personal growth, both, between the ears and also in their body. I don't even know a successful entrepreneur myself. I'm sure there are some out there. I don't even know one though, out of hundreds of people that I know that don't focus on personal growth between the ears and in their body.
Correct. However, there's a slew of entrepreneurs who are engorged with money, who are just fat, out of shape, man tits, the whole thing. They're just like slobbing around. They got the best cars, the best, wife, and them themselves are not the best.
Well, you done took me there, Tony. you said man tits.
The man, in fact, Steve told me your challenge is going to be something to the effect of man boob. I said, it is perfect. It's ditch the tits challenge. That's it. So we're going to run that in a few months.
So you're actually perfect, with what you're doing, because one of my high level marketing geniuses that I've met many years ago, he would tell me that people are only interested in three things. Can I share those with you?
Go ahead.
Help me get laid, help me get paid, and help me lose weight. Those are the three key motivators in most people's lives.
And that's the triad, right? Health, wealth, success. You can't have one without the other. If you're poor, you can't have to get laid, or you can't have, you know what I mean? If you don't have a chick, you're not going to be able to work right or spend your money on it. And if you don't have money, you can't get either. You don't have health, you're dead. You can't do anything. So each one of those are you're working with one of three, which is not good.
Yeah, and I know Jason wants to jump in, but I just want you to simplify something for us.
Yes.
I know there's people that are going to be watching this, and they're like, I don't have time. What do you tell those monkeys?
That's easy. If you go see the doctor and the doctor tells you, hey, listen, man, if you don't do this, you got 30 days, you're not going to make it. You're not going to make it to the 31st day. They'll find the time. Anybody has the time when they really want something, right?
Amen.
If you had $1 million and you say, hey, listen, come to my office every day at 3 a.m. for 30 days, and I'll give you $1 million. You think they're not going to have time? They're going to make that time. Why? Because that's what's important to them. If it's not that important to you, then you're not. And you know what's funny? You say that. There was a comedian, I forgot his name, but he was very young, 36 years old, really, really overweight. Doctor told him, listen, man, if you don't change your lifestyle, you're going to be dead before 40. And the comedian says, you know what? Eating healthy really doesn't motivate me. That doesn't scare me. Guy died at 37 years old. And he was warned. So his life did not mean much to him. Right? Something means that much to you and it's that important to you, you'll find the time. Just like with I can't afford it. You know what? If it means that much to you, you'll find the money somehow.
Mm-hmm. I totally agree. I've been there. I mean, one of the first, start that whole thing over. I have had great success in my life, but it's putting my nose to the grindstone and really focus. But when I do that, my health falls apart because in the past, up until recently, my health has fallen apart. And when that happens, whatever momentum I've created in my business life or my personal life, whatever, that falls apart too. Because I'll quote James all the time here, healthy man has 1,000 dreams and an unhealthy man has one, right? And you lose your focus. You lose your, I mean, I do anyway. And so part of leaning into me, leaning into my body, leaning into personal growth that way, really helps me just stay the course. But I want to just back up just for a minute because we got a little away from a statement that I wanted to unpack that you said, and I think it's an interesting statement, and I don't know where this is going to go. You mentioned Superman, and you also mentioned a healthy man, and our kids need our dads not only to look like superheroes, but actually to be superheroes. In that, and I love all of that. Here's my question. It's kind of a two-part question. What is a healthy man, and what's happened to men?
What's happened to men?
Yeah.
Alexa, off. Okay, so what is a healthy man? If you look at what a modern day superhero that you would see on TV or on a movie. Broad shoulders, small waist. You don't have to be really huge, and some sort of flat stomach. I'm not going to say a six pack because it's, first of all, it's not that important to everybody. But at least if you don't have a gut hanging over your belly, that gut is not pulling your hip forward, creating an issue in your low back, right? A lot of men have, oh, my back hurts. Yeah, it's because your belly is pulling your pelvis all the way forward, and it's compressing the lower spine, right? You would know, right, James? Does that make sense?
Well, form follows function.
You go. And so wide shoulders, smaller waist, flat stomach, everything else can be worked on. But if you have that foundation, that is what you should look forward to. What's happened to men nowadays is they, pardon the expression, but they've become little bitches. You know, they can't get down and do one push-up. That's shameful, right? You can't pick your body off the floor one time. You have a problem. Nowadays, men are letting women become the men, and I don't know how that happened. I guess the women are tired of seeing this guy with a gut walk in, sit down, watch the TV, and do nothing, when they're feeling like, I didn't sign up for this crap, you know, and they're running stuff. And because the man, oh, happy wife, happy life. Bullshit. She ain't happy. She's happy somewhere else because you're not doing the right thing, but she ain't gonna tell you that. And I'm not gonna be the one who gossip, right? But you'll find that out on your own. You know what I mean? That is my definition of a man, you know, right? A superhero, a healthy man. Be able to do at least 20 push-ups. Come on, you gotta, you know, it's a closed chain exercise, which, you know, helps the joints. It's one of those things: push-ups, pull-ups, squats, basic stuff. If you're a fat ass, get up, do 10 squats, 10 push-ups for now, because you're gonna be out of breath. Tomorrow, you do 11. The third day, you do 12. I'm not asking you to run a marathon on your first day, but damn, do better. Do something more. Somebody's looking at you. They're going to say, damn, that's what I got to look forward to when I get older. Like you? That's not cool. That's not fair. That's child abuse, because now your child's got to go through that.
Well, I'm going to bring it back to a little bit more, because you're talking about these guys need to go do something to take care of themselves, right?
100%.
Yes or yes? Yep.
Yes.
And then they go through this evolution where they're like, I better start doing push-ups like Tony tells me, and I better be able to like move my body weight around like Tony tells me. You're going to deal with the inevitable hard days. You're going to deal with the inevitable tight schedules. I mean, I live on an airplane. I'm always, you know, I flew 120 times last year, and I'm not saying that's an excuse for me, but sometimes people's lifestyles and their workload, like you're saying, these entrepreneurs, they have so much going on. And then you throw an injury in the mix because they're like, I'm going to do like Tony told me. And now I got a smoking shoulder, or I exacerbated an issue in my low back because my paunch pulled my hip out of place. How do you work with people through those challenges? Because it's inevitable that the challenge will come. It'll be the tough day that people don't want to do it because they don't feel good, or they come down with a cold or something and they're laid down for 7 days, and then they're like, I'm good now. I've lost weight because I was sick. How do you deal with people that are going through the transitions of your guidance? Okay, so having done this so many years, I know that I cannot say certain things to people. For instance, if I say, hey, you know what? When you're sick, it's okay to take the day off. I don't say that to people. You know why? What happened the last 7 days? You didn't train. Oh, I was sick for 7 days. And you said, if I feel sick, not to work out. So they take a cough to be sick and they don't work out. So I don't say any of that. All I say is, talk to me. What are you feeling? Oh, well, my back is, I feel a little discomfort. Let me ask you a question. Can you get on the floor right now? Yeah. Okay, get on the floor. Get up off the floor. You got up? Okay, so that was a push-up with a squat into a stand. That's good. Did anything hurt? No. Okay, so then I don't want you to do push-ups. I don't want you to do a squat. I want you to get on the floor, do a push-up to a squat to a stand. Can you do that? Yeah, I can do that, Tony. Do 10 of those. And now they can't do push-ups, but they can do a push-up to a stand to a squat. And I'll take that. For busy guys, I say, hey, you know what? When you wake up in the morning, yeah, what do you do first? I go to the bathroom and brush my teeth and do what I gotta do. Okay, set the alarm 10 minutes early, and when you wake up, just get on the floor and do 10 push-ups. There's no busy schedule that has to prevent you from doing a few things that you're gonna be thankful for later on. Once you do a set of push-ups,
these hormones start working in your brain. You got endorphins pumping up, where that one set is going to change your physiology because it's going to feel good once you haven't done it. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so I'm in the airport. I'm waiting for my connecting flight. I've done this. I've gone to the bathroom in Boise over there. I've put 2 pieces of paper in the bathroom floor, and I've dropped for 10, 15, 20, 25, 30. And then I put it in the garbage, wash my hands. I go back, sit on my seat with my luggage. There's no reason. There's no excuse to me as a trainer, as a life fitness entrepreneur. There is no reason to not do 2 water gallons, and start just going like this with water gallons. Then I'm in a hotel, I got no gym. Go to the store, go to the gas station, and get 2 gallon of waters, and just do these, or do lateral raises, or do upright rows, or do presses with those gallons. Yeah, they're very light, but if you do 40, I bet you they won't feel light anymore. So there's really no excuse, right? I tell them excuses are your own. Now, if you're deadly with a flu, I get it. Because what happens is when we train, our body takes our recovery mechanisms to try to help ourselves from the flu, try to help us get better. And if we work out, now you got to split those recovery efforts, and now it takes longer to get better, right? So unless you're on your deathbed, you're good to go. So there's certain things that I let go and certain things I don't let go.
But I before you jump in, Jay, I'm talking about like somebody's working out now, they're under your guidance, not so much being sick, but now they like start getting like an issue with their shoulder. And they're like, oh, gosh.
The first thing I do is, when was the last time you went to a chiropractor, MRI, X-ray? What's going on with that shoulder? Do we know what's going on? Because I don't want to continue to have you move that shoulder if we're like maybe 3 strands from getting some ligament busted. So go check it out first so we can work around it, but not ignore it.
Mm-hmm. And then put their asses to the gym and tell them to hit the assault bike.
Hit the assault bike, hit the squat rack, hit something you don't use your shoulder with, right? Like people will use anything just to get out of it.
Yeah.
Right? So let me ask you a question. Where's your wife going tonight? You know where she's at? Fix that shoulder, buddy. You know, and it sucks to say. I've had conversations, women that have told me. So I mean, I'm not just grabbing stuff out of thin air. These are true stories that I've been unfortunately have to hear. They're true stories, and these are things that happen because the men have just neglected themselves to the poorhouse. Why the poorhouse? Because when they don't have their kids, they don't have their wife. What good is the money?
That's true statement.
When you're on a deathbed, when you're in they give you 3 weeks to live, and you get asked, what's the one thing you wish you had more of? They're gonna say
time.
Right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And why did you let yourself go? You could, like I did that I read that study, Jason, that I mentioned on stage. Working out twice a week with 2 cardio sessions will extend your life by 30%. 30%. Who wouldn't want to have 30% having, laying on a bed, on a deathbed? Shit, get up. You have 30% more life. Go get it.
No, it's totally true. And I think it's just an interesting phenomenon that I think everybody wants more time. Everybody wants health. We want to not only increase the lifespan, which we can do artificially all day long with various respirators and machines hooked up to us and all that kind of stuff. But I think people want a health span. It's not just to live longer. They want to live healthier. And I want to just give credence to your story. A couple of anecdotes popped into my mind. I have a family member, near and dear family member who I love dearly. And they, Rachel and I go out when we're visiting people and we're like, hey, we're going to go on a walk. You want to go on a walk with us, And this person always says, I can't go because my ankle injury. And so I was like, when did you injure your ankle? And they said something effective like, I don't know, 40 years ago or something. I mean, whatever the number was, it was and I'm like, wow, that's like a crutch. I mean, literally it's a crutch that they're leaning on to not exercise. And unfortunately, this person, has some weight issues and some cardiometabolic issues and hormone issues, and the list goes on and on. I always say we can either be a warning or an example. That's the warning, right? She's not doing well. The example though is my friend Mike. Mike is an incredible healer. He's Canadian. He lives in Minnesota now, but he actually got flown into Minneapolis to help consult on a cancer case. And while he was getting picked up from the airport from the person's daughter, he got T-boned by a guy in a high-speed chase from, I don't know what was going on with the cops, but he got T-boned and Mike nearly died. And he, said they told him he would never walk again. I think within a couple of days, and he told the doctor, "I can't believe you tell me that." Neuroplasticity and all that kind of stuff. And he's like, "I am going to walk again. I'm going to stand up and kick you in the balls for saying that. You're not allowed to say that." And Mike, you know, he hasn't fully regained the lower use of his limbs yet, but he is in a wheelchair. I've seen him stand. And his exercise. I mean, this guy, I want to really emphasize this. This guy nearly lost his life, said he was never going to walk again, is now in a wheelchair. He goes to his PT every day. He gets in the water. He's up and down and up and down and up and down. And then for his cardio, because it's awfully hard to do that, he just punches the air as fast as he can, you know, just back and forth, getting his cardio in. And he's built. I mean, he's a built guy. And so when people tell me I can't do that, I'm like, if Mike can do it, anybody can do it. I mean, any single person on the planet can do it. 100%. Now, I have a question for you.
Yes.
You and I have chatted about this again, and I don't know that we got to the bottom of it, but I'd love to hear your perspective of it. So I want to talk about low testosterone and high estrogen, specifically in men, is what we're talking about. Worldwide, please all listeners, Google fact check me here. Worldwide testosterone levels are going down, 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 down. If we look at the testosterone load for men from 50 years ago, and we took everybody's testosterone based on all the studies that we know, and we put it into a bucket, and then we did that today, it's like a third of the testosterone. Like we have like a third of the amount of testosterone collectively as men. There's a ton of xenoestrogens. What that means is there's exogenous or outside estrogens that we're coming in contact with, pesticides, petrochemicals, shit in the water, even drugs like Zoloft act like estrogens because they're petrochemicals. The drugs that are out there are petroleum-based petrochemicals that act like estrogens in our bodies. And we've been told, you know, a pill can fix anything. So men are popping pills for their depression, putting these estrogens in their bodies. And then what happens? Estrogen, and this is not a comment on women, but estrogen encourages our bodies to produce more body fat, to store calories. That's what estrogen is good at. And estrogen making more body fat. Here's the weird thing about body fat. We always think of it as, like you said, pulling the hips forward and this and that. But fat is actually a metabolically active organ. And it secretes not only inflammatory chemicals, but it actually encourages an enzyme. It secretes an enzyme called aromatase. And aromatase aromatizes or converts fat burning hormones into more estrogen, which makes more fat, which makes more aromatase, which makes more estrogen, makes more fat, which makes more aromatase. And it's a vicious cycle, not to mention that the stress that men are under, because we've forgotten how to manage our stress as men. Well, I'm using my words carefully. Tony, you cannot use your words carefully. I'll go down whatever rabbit hole you want to go in. But, you know, stress shunts the body's ability to take pregnenolone, a mother hormone, if you will, that converts to testosterone eventually. It takes that and converts it into stress hormones, which puts, again, more fat around our midsections. And again, worldwide, what this has done is raised estrogen levels in men and lowered testosterone. Now, I want to speak about myself, and then I'm going to turn it back over to you. Yep. There was a point where I had such low testosterone in my body for all of the stuff that we just chatted about. It's not like this anymore, but for all the stuff we chatted about, that my wife actually had more testosterone when we measured it than I did in my system. It was that flippin' bad. Wow. Granted, I've course corrected and I understand a lot more than I did then. My question is, what has been your experience with men and testosterone levels, and how important is this to being a Superman between the ears and a Superman in my body?
Well, testosterone is, again, it's the king of male hormones for us men. It does a whole bunch of good things that we need as men. Builds muscle, the recovery process, helps us heal faster, that kind of stuff. When you're taking it exogenously, I'm not sure out there where you're at, but in the bodybuilding community and in the doctors down in this area, they also provide Arimidex, which is an anti-aromatase inhibitor, right? So that we don't have that issue of the too much testosterone converting. But testosterone is needed for you to produce your superhero body. Right? Low T, high estrogen, you're gonna start getting bitch tits, man tits, all kind of stuff. You start crying in Hallmark commercials. Now we have a problem. Your wife slapping you around because now she has more testosterone than you, and that is a huge problem. So when men come to me, the first thing I ask them is, get yourself a blood test. I want to see what's going on with you. Because if you have low test, we go to the gym, we're training for 6 months, you're wasting your time. It may feel good to lift weights, but you're not going to grow anything because you're missing the main muscle tissue builder, which is testosterone. So I do recommend they get a blood test, and when they bring it back, I check it. I think for men, I think top is if I'm not mistaken, 300 to 500. That's the range.
I've seen higher. I clocked in around 950 last time I looked.
With or without?
Without. Yeah. Well, okay. So let me clarify.
Yeah.
I did do some testosterone cyprinate injections, and I was using I don't know if it was Arimidex or what it was, but I was using a aromatase blocker as well. And I did get my levels up. At some point, honestly, if you ask me why, I don't know why. I just stopped injecting. Mostly because I can't inject myself. I have a full-on fear of needles, I fully do. And my wife, God bless her, was injecting my butt a couple times a week. And like I said, I got good results with it. And then I basically changed. I don't need to share what I did with mine, but long story short, I just cut out a shit ton of foods that were higher on the glycemic load. So really focusing on low glycemic load foods. And then high intensity interval training sessions and different things to kind of get my body making that stuff so that when I was working out, I could get a more muscular physique, which I'm still working on. But somewhere in that magic, I think what happened with me was the testosterone cyprinate kind of kickstarted the engine. And then I had been using principles of, diet and hydration and electrolytes and supplementation and working out the right way that I think was able to catapult that forward, to those 800-900 levels. But I don't know that I could have done it without starting with some type of exogenous testosterone. Anyway, I'd love to hear your thoughts on that.
Yeah. Most men, and what's really, really sad to see is I have guys coming in there at 23 with testosterone levels at 21. And I'm
that's where I was.
It's what's going on, with the breastfeeding. What's going on with something is wrong when a 23-year-old has a 21 testosterone level, right? Testosterone, when injected, when I was competing on the pro stage, again, we can't compete in my world in that division without doing the super subs, what I call them. And so at one point, my testosterone levels was 2,700.
Wow.
Which is very, very high, among other things that I was taking for the sport. I did turn pro in my sport. And then after having slayed that dragon, I titrated down. And now, I'm on a regular normal dose of about 350. Now, I'm not on a TRT dose. I'm on a little more because I know what I feel and I know what I like to feel like. But their TRT dose is 200 a week. Now, I don't think that what they're giving you in the pharmacies is a true 200 milligram dose in that bottle. Why? Because I have a 250 milligram dose here. And when my cousin right now, he said, Tony, can I have some of yours? And I said, sure. I gave him 1 cc of mine. And he said, what did you give me? It feels so much stronger by the just 50 milligrams more. And I said, their stuff can't be 200. And maybe they're pulling back because no doctor wants to lose their license over something that happened for, a little bit over the milligrams they're supposed to have. So in my opinion, I think they're underdosed, but they're keeping their, patients happy. And as long as they have more than what they had before, then that's a happy patient. And so testosterone, in my opinion, should be anywhere, like you said, between 600 and 900, which is good. Now, you said you stopped taking it. And when you feel good, you kind of, I got to inject myself. And you kind of let it go I'll do it tomorrow. 2 weeks pass, you don't take it and you're feeling good. But what's really going on with your blood level? So if you haven't taken it, go get your blood levels drawn again. See what happened. If it stays there, fantastic. It's still 900. We're golden, right? What you're doing is working. Sometimes it drops and you don't realize it because everything else is going right. So I would get that checked out if I were you.
I'm due for labs. So yeah, thanks for.
And I do labs every 3 months.
I do too. Yeah, I'm about
Yeah.
5 months out right now, so I'm a little overdue. You know who reminds me though? My wife. She's like, what we should do is get some labs done. And I'm like, I need to do that. When she starts telling me that, I made a deal with her when we first started dating that if I'd gotten a little pudgy around the middle, I just told her to poke my belly and I would know what that meant. And she's done that a couple times. It's not a good feeling. It's really not as a man, it's not a good feeling to have that happen.
There you go. That's a checkup from the neck up. You know whose wife used to do that to him? Andy Elliott. She would grab that back fat and say, bro, what are you doing? You're letting yourself go. And he didn't. It doesn't feel good at all.
Yeah. I gave her permission. I hope to not be in that situation. I have a question, James, but before I go there, I want to take this in a slightly different direction. But James, I want to pass it back over if you wanted to jump in.
Yeah, I'm listening to like the chemistry of life. That's what you guys are talking about. You guys are talking about, is there chemistry in a human's life? Are the balance of chemistry on or the balance of chemistry off? How do we test? How do we retest? How do we get to the point of performance and excellence? And how do we make the wife happy? How do we make the girlfriend excited? How do we keep the romance alive? How do we consistently keep this engine running? The human body, the man. And I think that's really what this comes down to. And that's the love of what I do on this podcast, is I get a chance to be the glue that puts the conversations together with our guests and with my esteemed doctor co-host, Dr. Jason. I get a chance to be the guy in the background that just listens and pays attention when you guys are riffing on what is the chemistry of life for a competent, capable man. And every man wants it, but a lot of people don't know how to get there. And I tell people this: if they know what we know, they do what we do. And it's very simple. And I like to reframe things back into the most simple things that make people do what you're doing right now, Tony. Just shake your head. This guy is saying the gospel. He's speaking the truth that everybody needs to hear. And that's really my sole genius on why the shows that I run work, is because I can always bring it back home.
Right.
And bringing it back home, I want to bring it back home to you. You said that you hit your goal and your target, and you became the bodybuilder guy. But then obviously that's not sustainable long term. So what was it like on that journey? What was it like for you to take yourself from the guy that understood what it means to be healthy to the one that got to the stage? Well, tell us about that journey.
It was for me, I'm overkill. So I say, wow, if this does this, then what must this do, right? So no longer was bench pressing and being wide on top and smaller on the bottom, no longer was that good for me. So I wanted to look like these guys I would see in the magazines. And I said, what is it going to take to look like that? And so we have an entrepreneur, we have our thing where, find out who's doing the thing you want to do the best and hire that guy. And so what I did was, the Mr. Olympia is like the Super Bowl of our sport. So what I did was I started seeking out the coaches that coach the Mr. Olympia winners. And I call these guys, I call like 5 of them and say, hey, how much do you charge to prep somebody for the stage? Because I honestly, when I got out of prison, I was 37. I didn't really have time to try to figure stuff out. I wanted to do something. I wanted to make an impact, and I wanted to do it fast. So I called these guys, and these guys were pretty expensive. They were $6,000. They each was $5,000 to $6,000, depending on which one it was and who they helped win the Mr. Olympia. Right. So you have first place at $6,000. If you got a second place Mr. Olympia, that coach was charging $5,000. And so I wanted to hire the main guy, the guy who worked with the Mr. Olympia. So I did. It was $6,000. I didn't have $6,000. So I said, you know what, do you take payments? And he goes, you know what? Yeah, I'll take payments with you. I was like, what's the structure? So I gave him, the first payment, and we got to work. And I'll admit, I looked at it and I was like, wow, there was a list of drugs longer than my laundry list. And I was like, holy cow, I don't know what any of these things are or how to spell them. But I said, if I want to be on there looking like that and looking like these guys that I see on TV, then this is what I got to do. Not knowing much, I had to trust what I was paying this guy, big money for at the time, to help me look like these guys that are getting on stage. And so I did. I trusted him. I called him. I said, listen, I'm a little hesitant about this. I don't know what it does. I don't know what it's going to do to me. And that included, guys, injecting insulin, right? because it's a procedure where when you inject insulin and you eat carbohydrates, it shuttles the carbohydrates directly into the muscle, making it appear bigger, putting on more mass and being able to lift more. Being able to lift more creates more muscle tissue. So it was a process. That in combination with growth hormone, testosterone, trenbolone, anavar, and it was a list.
And the follow-up to that is, did you deal with setbacks? Did you deal with injuries along the way? And how did you manage that?
I did. And the injuries I got were torn. I got a torn bicep and torn tricep because my muscles were getting too strong and much stronger than at the rate my ligaments were. So my ligaments don't get strong. They're just there holding your stuff together.
And see, this is the truth of these talks is I know that you figured some stuff out, and then you became the guy, and now you're coaching people to find, the fit body out of the fat dad. And they're probably not going to go for the same stage that you went to, but they just want to look good naked.
Yeah. And that's easier. That's easier than getting on stage. I'll tell you that.
Of course. That's why we're talking about this, but you had to have your setback to realize that some of the things that you did were unsustainable. Absolutely. So really, I know we're getting to the conversation of sustainability model for the common man. Absolutely. And that's really what we're all looking for, is a sustainability model for the common man, to where we don't go through the peaks and valleys and the injuries. We stay consistent, and we can do the things that will take us to become the avatar inside of our heads of what we want to look like when we're 50, what we want to look like when we're 60. And I think there's a lot of responsibility, but hearing you say, hey, not only did I make it to the peak, but I fell from grace and I had these issues along the way. I think that's the really responsible conversation today, because it's not just the rah, it's the be do have. If you want to be it, you have to do it. If you want to do it, you can have it. And that's the chemistry of life when it comes to the quotient of becoming the man that gives the guidance now. So, congratulations for, realizing that the top isn't always the best place to be. I take people to the top of 14,000 foot mountains, but when you get to the top of the 14,000 foot mountain, you don't stay there long. No. Because at the top of the mountain, you know what happens? That's where people get hypothermia. That's where the highest winds are blowing. That's where the lightning is striking. Because after you get after 12,000 feet of where the trees don't grow anymore, you are the biggest object up there. If the lightning storm comes through, guess who gets hit? You. So there's a chemistry of how you go about hiking a big mountain, and you have to train for it. And you have to make sure that you're up it before noon and down it as fast as possible, because that's when danger happens. Right. So it's also training the body to be an absolute temple. So it's really cool to hear you talk about how you got there, from the eating, from the methodology to getting yourself there, but also giving real-time advice to a guy like Dr. Jason to say, look, these are the things that we have to be aware of if we want to be a good, healthy man.
Yep, absolutely. And there's also, like you said, when you're top of the mountain, then you got to come down a certain way. When you're coming off the stage, you have to do things in reverse, because what most people do is, and this is lifestyle too, they get on the diet, they reach their goal weight, yay, I'm on the cruise, I'm looking great. And then because they reach the goal, they stop doing all the things, cardio, training, diet, that got them there. And then a week later, they're back to square one.
So how do you psychologically wean people off of that peak to normalcy?
It's a mindset where you have to understand, look, okay, you look in the mirror, you like what you see? Yes, I like what I see, Tony. I want to keep this. Okay, so now here's what we got to do. I'm not going to take away your whole life. List for me a couple of meals that you like and enjoy having with your wife, with your kids, with your sons, or whatever. And they list those meals. And I say, okay, if you like how you look, this is how we're going to integrate these in here. We know you've eaten these before and they've gotten you unhealthy. There's a way to do it where you can keep how you look and have what you have. There's certain times around your workout when you can have these meals that won't do the damage that they do if you eat them on a regular day, on a regular night, on a regular weekend.
See, and that's the trainer gospel right there.
Right. When you train your body, the food that you eat your body is most forgiving around the training hours because you've just expelled, a bunch of glycogen, a bunch of sweat, a bunch of, sodium and all that stuff and fat. And when you eat it, your body uses it to replenish. When you're eating it and your body doesn't need it, it stores it, right? And now it's the difference between using food to help us and using food to fuck us up.
And this is what one of my best friends always tell me, James, may you get what you want and want it once you get it. And there we come back down the mountain, because the part that brutalizes you the most, it's not the climb, it's the come down. And that's where most people end up hurting themselves on a major hike like that. It's the descent, not the ascent. So I think it's a real responsible conversation we're having today. I do want to pass it back to Dr. Jason, because he's been there just listening and taking it all in, and I'm sure he's got 25 note cards going. So Jason, where are you at right now in our conversation?
Oh man, well, first of all, I'm just soaking it all in too, right? Because my goal, what are we in September? I have a quick question, and then I have a deeper question.
Yeah.
So October is coming right around the corner tomorrow, right? We were in the last quarter, Q4. How long does it take? I'm fascinated by the Superman body. I'm just gonna keep talking about it. How long does it take to help someone get that body? Again, I feel like I'm a healthy weight, but if I look at me, I'm not a Superman body by any means. I'm willing to do the work. So as Jim always says, he can't do the push-ups for me. But how long does it take for a regular guy like me that eats very responsibly? I mean, I would say if you said out of 0 to 100 in your healthy habits, where are you? I'd be like, I'm at 90, 95. I feel really strongly saying that. There's areas where I'm like, I don't know if I can get any better, but my body still doesn't reflect that, right? So all of that said, so if I surrendered to your coaching, how long does it take to take a body like mine? And you've seen my body. We won't say why. No, I'm kidding. You've seen me. How long does it take to turn somebody like me around into that Superman?
Well, again, in my case, I'd be like, okay, so let's assess you. Take off your shirt. Let me see what you look like, right? And so now you tell me, okay, this is the body I want, Tony. I want it to look like this athlete. Let's just say, who's that soccer guy with the peg?
Jim was Jim played professional soccer, so I'm going to let him field this answer.
Cristiano Ronaldo.
There you go. So Ronaldo is by no means huge, but he's got a nice physique. So let's say he's got some nice shoulders and chest, and you take off your shirt. You say, you want to look like him. I say, okay. So based on him and based on you, we need to put on some shoulders. We need to put on a little bit of pecs. So my training for you is going to surround around shoulders and pecs primarily, right? But again, that can't happen unless the testosterone levels are there to make that grow. Right? So we make sure you have optimal test levels. And if they're on the low, then I'm gonna say, hey, you know what? Let's kick that up instead of 200, 250. Let's kick it up to 350. We're gonna eat for tissue growth, more for tissue growth, and not for fat gain. In other words, we're gonna keep our fat low. We're gonna keep our carbohydrates around the training, and the rest of the time is just gonna be proteins. But the training is gonna be 7 days a week.
Okay.
The cardio is gonna be 7 days a week. Yeah, but Tony, I shouldn't do much cardio. Says who? Who said that? I've done cardio 90 minutes for 4 months every day, and I have been in the best shape of my life. Oh, but you're gonna lose muscle. Says who? You do what you gotta do to get what you gotta get, right? Now, but why do I have to train every day? It says here 4 days a week. Says who? You have to do what you have to do to get what you wanna get. Period. Oh, well, why would you train every day? How do you know? What happens to the rest? Yeah, it is correct that you do grow when you rest, but you don't get tissue by not training to the maximum that your body can. That's number one. Right?
Yeah, man. And I'm not an athletic trainer by any means, but what I was taught in doctor schools is that this rest period, I think people have this idea like, I go to the gym on Monday and I rest on Tuesday and I go back on Wednesday or Thursday and I rest, and I always ask this question because that's kind of what they say. Hey, if you can work out, 3 times a week or, whatever, and then you're not overtraining. But I'm always like, why can't we do this today, this tomorrow, my legs the next day, back to this, and maybe I'm wrong. And so I'm asking, when we're cycling our training like that, is that giving my body ample time to rest and recover? But I'm still working out. I'm still doing the workouts. It's just I'm switching my focus for the day. Am I thinking the right way?
Yes, because if you train your arms today, they need between 36 and 72 hours to recover. So, but in those 36 to 72 hours, you're training legs, back. It is true that when you train back, you do a little bit of arms, but that's okay. We'll separate those two far enough where you're not impeding on the recovery process of the arms, right? Mm-hmm. Now, well, Tony, when do you rest? I rest when my body tells me, hey, you should rest. And your body will tell you, oh, I got a tweak in my ankle today. Maybe I shouldn't go. That's, Golgi tendon is real, right? You get little tweaks somewhere. Oh, damn, you know what? I'm going to take the day off today. Your body will tell you. It has alarm systems. Just because the book says, oh, you know what? 3 days on, 4 days off, doesn't mean that that's what you follow. Mm-hmm. Now, there is a science behind the harder you train that day will determine how much rest you need the following. So if you're doing a HIIT training, high intensity training, where you're lifting the most heaviest weights you've ever done, and you're in the gym for 4 hours, then I would venture to say that tomorrow you probably should take the day off because you've been pushing for 4 hours, weights that you haven't pushed in years, right?
Dude, I've done like bicep curls before, just on where you're just controlled bicep curls, and I will the next day I can't move my arms. I've clearly like overtrained because I'm trying to pack it all into one day.
Yeah. But there's a time to train hard and a time to like kind of like a primer. So in the beginning you have to go in and do 2 sets and go home, because if you do 3 or more, you're gonna wake up like that. But after you've been doing it 2 or 3 weeks, that pain, you're gonna have to train that much harder to get that kind of pain again.
I have another question that's just a practical question again. Thank you for clarifying. I mean, that's really awesome. It clarifies and kind of underscores what I've intuitively always thought that is against. I'll be like as clear as I can be here. That's not what's taught in the medical training programs. That's just not what's out there.
But talking about the medical, sorry to interrupt you, talking about the medical, right? It's not, you're never taught in any industry how to diet for a contest. And
well, I think in general medicine, you're not taught how to eat at all. I mean, at all. Right. I have a question around carbs around training. And I've heard you both say this a little bit, and I don't want to make any assumptions because again, I focus on high protein, healthy fats and low glycemic load foods for the most part. I don't really I eat carbohydrates. It's just from cabbage and stuff, things like that. Right. But I've heard a lot of people, you, Tony, in fact, told me, dude, if you're not getting enough carbs, your muscles are going to look flabby. And you've told me that, and it's challenging to me because and that means I have something to learn here when I get triggered and get challenged. So at carbs around training, what exactly does that look like? Like, what does that mean? Okay.
So carbs around training, that means that the meal that I have before I train, I'm going to have a cup and a half of a carbohydrate. It could be rice, white rice, not brown rice. Why? High glycemic, low glycemic. When you're in training, you want high glycemic because it goes in quick to your muscle, and it's when you need it at the gym. You don't have time for brown rice to trickle up. By the time it all trickles up, you'll be out of the gym and probably in bed, which is what low glycemic does. You get, bouts of carbohydrates when you need it. You need high glycemic right away so you can use it in the gym. Now, when you're using it in the gym and you get out of the gym, now you've depleted your muscles of glycogen. And if you're trying to keep them full and nice, you want to eat carbs because now you're thirsty. They're thirsty for carbs. And when you eat it, it's going to suck it right into the muscles and it's not going to store as fat.
That's fascinating. You've said this to me maybe 3 or 4 times now. It's just now clicking because honestly, I'm a slow learner. I ask my wife, she tells me things many times. And then what I do with her is a few days later, I'll be like, you know what I thought of? And then she's like, I'm fucking telling you that for 2 months, but at any rate, no, I appreciate that. So let me
when you're trying to lose fat, you can't have carbs before training, but you can have the carbs after.
So that was thank you. You teed me up for this because you hear about these sport drinks, right? And when people are always like, what do you think about sport drinks? And the pre-workout and this and that. And I've never quite had the words to say it, and now I do, thank you. But when I look at those drinks, as we all know, there's a whole bunch of sugar in there of some sort, whatever it's from, hopefully not high fructose corn syrup, and corn sugars and all that kind of crap, and we can get into a discussion about that someday. But I've always had problems with the pre-workout drinks for the average Joe, because most average Joes have a lot of fat to lose. You know, but it makes sense. I understand what you're saying. I'll repeat it, so I'm making sure I get it. If we're in a fat losing state, don't have the carbs before the workout. In fact, stick with low glycemic, stick with the protein, but then after the workout, have that cup of rice or something like that.
If you want to, correct.
Yeah, if you want. And then on the flip side, if I'm not in a fat losing state and I'm just bulking, then I could have a little bit before and a little bit after. But those are during my training, like around my training time, which is not a conceptual time like I train, you know, Monday, Wednesday, Friday. It's like I train at 6 p.m. So at 5:45 p.m. or whatever, I'm going to eat this. And then at 6, I'm going to work out. And then at 7 or 7:30, I'm going to eat this. And it's around that training time of the day. Am I interpreting that?
Yes.
Thank you.
Now, if you're a runner and you're going to go run, have your carbs 45 minutes before you go run.
Okay.
Because you're going to need it. You look at carbs as gasoline in your tank, right? If you're not going to drive, why are you putting gas in the car, right? If you're not going to work out and you're watching a movie or watching TV or in for the night, what's the carbs doing for you? Nothing other than storing.
This is great.
Right?
So what's really interesting about this is I don't claim all my different certifications and degrees and all that crap, because I'm a lifelong learner and the list gets way too long. I will say Dr. Bob Silverman outdoes anybody. If you look at the list of initials after that guy's name, I think it's like goes into the Cyrillic alphabet or something like that. But nonetheless, one of my trainings is I don't hold the certification anymore because I didn't pay my dues, but I'm a certified nutritionist by training, and no one's ever been this explicit. I've studied strength and conditioning. No one's ever explicitly just said, here's the simplicity of it. And I love, Tony, that you just made so much sense out of what intuitively feels right, but no one's teaching this stuff. This is like genius. Go ahead.
Because academics don't bodybuild.
That's true.
I mean, true. A registered
I resemble that.
Nutritionists make you healthy. They don't make you shredded.
Yeah. I'm ready to get shredded. Oh, so back to my question. So let's say, first of all, do you work with, I'm not in Miami. Can I work with you? Okay. Absolutely. I mean, you do telehealth, like, I don't know, telehealth. Or
I work with Dan Henry. I got Dan Henry in the best shape. He's in Dubai.
Okay, great. So again, I want to come back to, it's all about me, and I'm teasing, but it's October tomorrow, and I want to be shredded by, I'll be honest, like, I want to be shredded by Christmas. That's been my goal all year.
Here's going to be a challenge. Okay. I'm going to tell you what's going to be a challenge right now. Thanksgiving.
I know, but we're hardcore. Rachel and I are hardcore. Our kids hate the way we eat because they're like, why don't you have this? And I'm like, we don't keep that, like, we don't keep it around the house. Like, we literally will not do it. And even at family events, we bring our own food. We are those weirdos. Jim's been around us. He's like, yeah, there's nothing to eat in our house.
That's how you got to be. That's how you got to be 100%. You know, you got to level up, and you got to be willing to do the things that nobody wants to do.
So if I'm willing to do it, and I don't see the holidays as a challenge for me, I don't see that challenge. Can I get my Superman body by Christmas? I want that to be my Christmas present.
September, October, November, anybody can get a Superman body.
3 months?
4 months.
4 months.
4 months. That's just, you have to willing to do the work. And
it's 3 months. I'm not.
Well, he says 4 months. I'll take 4 months.
It's 4 months. Anywhere between 1 month. I got mine in 2 months. 4 months better for you. Cool. But if you want to do it in 2 months, you can.
It's walking into the new year, Jason, not Christmas then. If it's
I can do that. That's fine. As long as I have a goal.
If you start now, you'll be walking into the new year ahead of the game.
Okay, Tony, I'm going to throw this out. I've been working on a project for a few years now called Fit by 50. And then I turned 50 and now it's Fit by 50 and beyond. My publisher was like, you got to say and beyond, man. And I'm like, that's true. So then I'm hitting my demographic before 50 years old and I'm hitting my demographic, beyond, right? But Tony, literally, the way I've been working on this is my own self-exploration. And I want to chat with you about working on this project together because I think that you and I can collaborate on something really cool. I also wanted to just say that Jim mentioned the chemistry of man, which instantly brought up a memory that I had of a book that I forgot about called, guess what? The Chemistry of Man. From the Man series by Dr. Bernard Jensen. He wrote this at 75 years old. He lived to be almost 20 years later, and it's all about what we're talking about. He has some other crazy things in there about bowel movements and how to get your poop moving out and all, like some important things that we're not talking about here. But I just wanted to name drop Dr. Bernard Jensen's Chemistry Man. It's out of print if you can find one. Even paperback books are going for a lot of money right now. I happen to have 2 copies of it, but I'm not selling either one. The last thing the thing that I wanted to spin this into and go back to your training with your clients. One of the things that's interesting is, and a lot of people have never heard this before, most doctors don't know this, but men with the lowest testosterone levels have the highest incidence of cardiovascular events. I'll say that again. Men with the lowest testosterone levels have heart attacks. Men with higher testosterone levels typically don't suffer from those things. And I think the reason I wanted to bring that up is people think about getting jacked up and getting your testosterone levels up, and they're like, oh man, you're gonna give yourself a heart attack, you're gonna do it. But really that's not what the stats show. There are some thickening of the blood that can happen, hematocrit, and whatnot can creep up with testosterone supplementation. But ultimately those can be mitigated as well. I just want to throw that out. So question 1, I'll come back to it. Question 1, if you have any ideas around that. But the big thing I wanted to ask about is, a number of years ago, I was privileged to have an article published that I wrote in the Chicago Tribune science section. So Chicago Tribune, Chicago, Illinois, it's a big regional newspaper, if there are any left in the world. And my article was titled, "Deficiency in Disguise, Is Low Testosterone the Cause of Your Depression?" And it was really looking at an armchair meta-analysis of low testosterone and depression. And I'm wondering with you, we talked about what is a healthy man? What does it mean to even be a man anymore? And I wonder if you've experienced men that come to you, I'm a flabby dad, I want to get to be a fit dad. And when you're doing that bridge, what happens to their mood? What happens to their affect? What happens to that depression, that stress that they're carrying? Do you see that transforming as well?
Disappears.
Yeah, tell me about it.
Within a week, disappears. We fix their tea, and the first thing they say is, I've heard of placebo effect, but you think it could be that soon? I'm like, bro, if you didn't feel like this before and we've started and a week later you're feeling like this, it can't be placebo, bro. It's because you're doing something you haven't done in so long that your body's like, oh my God, this is what I'm supposed to feel like. And it becomes addictive, right? And then you just want more and more and more. And then men start to change their life. But if we can't get them there to begin with, then they'll never get to see that.
They got to do the push-up.
Men just don't know how to get there. That's the fact.
Well, Jason's talking about books and reading books, right? You've written 4 books.
Yeah.
Tell us about your books, man. Why did you write them, and what was your most recent one?
Let me see. I have the Spartan body formula, and then this is the workout, right? Because a lot of people go to the gym, they don't even know where to go, what to do. They do this, they do that. They don't even know if they're doing it right or wrong. But this is the workout. Then I have the second book, which is the Spartan Body Blitz. The Spartan Body Blitz now goes into the food portion that you want to apply with this. The third book is Spartan Body Dry Out, which takes you through that last week before you get on stage. What to eat, what not to eat, the water depletion, the salt depletion, all that kind of stuff, because it's kind of like a chemistry class that you're doing to your body, that the difference between being on stage at 10% and 4%. Now, the people who are lifestyle don't need this. They'll be fine with the Blitz. This is what I did to lose 40 pounds in 2 months. Follow this to the T. And so these things just came about because it's, for people, I'm not a cheap date. In order for me to change your life, it's going to cost you some money. But you're spending more not being in the best shape of your life than just getting out of it and just getting it out, and doing it. And so those that can't afford me, they have another option. They could just pick something. And if you read it and you're the kind of person that can apply something that you read, then you'll be fine. I did it. I did it with this alone. I just put this to this, and anybody can do it if they just read and apply. But it has to be applied, and it has to be disciplined, and there's no room for sidetracking. And like we spoke earlier, people are going to fall off. If you want to be in the best shape of your life as soon as you want to be in, there's no time to fall off. There's no time to dick around. There's no time to be tired. You've been tired for the last 40 years of your life. When are you going to wake up? So we got to like look down, open your pants and see what you got there. If they're still there, there are things that we were born with that were made for a reason, because we're supposed to be men, not girls talking about, I'm tired. I'm just, oh my God. No. Come on. Let's wake up. Let's be who we're supposed to be, which is men.
Yeah.
Well, Tony, I think that there's some really great things you shared there. You know, just the integrity that it takes to write up the roadmap for people. And I think the roadmap is really why I wanted to dive into that, because Jason's like, well, this other guy wrote a book and it's not in print anymore. And that's the roadmap. And now you're saying I have 3 roadmaps for you, and you just got to read them and apply it. So I think, you know, the proof is in the time that people put into it. And like you said, you're not a cheap date. And I always tell people, what you pay for, you pay attention to.
That's right.
And, you know, those are the guidelines to getting the body and the life of your dreams.
That's right.
And I think that's really, you know, it always brings it back home, you know? Like when we have the curiosity, which I love about what Jason and I do, and we bring on dynamic guests like yourself, because you do have the idea to get somebody better faster. Right. And that's why we host this show, because we bring subject matter experts on that are doing something unique in this world, whether it's teaching people to have healthy pregnancies, or teaching people how to breathe, or teaching people how to detox the body. We're talking to subject matter experts that are all talking about one thing. How do we get people better faster? Is it the mindset specialties, or is it the body specialties? Or is it, how do we take the crap in our body and remove it? So I think that there's, you know, people that are going to eventually talk about how to clean the water sources up. How are we going to clean the air up? How are we going to clean the environment up? So there are people out there, subject matter experts, that are all getting people better faster. And yours just happens to be optimizing the machine that we all stand on, which is our body.
100%.
And we look better naked, or look good naked. It's not a bad end result, right? I remember too thinking about, like, you know, mind and body, and is it between the ears, is it the body? I got to stop reading books because I'm just book dropping here. But a long while ago, I read a book by Baron Baptiste, a yoga trainer, and he was having some emotional, mental, spiritual, like constipation, so to speak, and he couldn't break through it. And he felt like a fraud, because he was like, God, I'm teaching people to do yoga and de-stress and connect with your spiritual self and this and that. And he's like, I couldn't do it. And he's like, and so all I knew how to do was just thrust myself into my physical body. He's like, I just leaned into it. I leaned into my practice harder than I've ever. And he said, and that's when I got my spiritual, mental, and emotional breakthroughs. And I find it really interesting that when I asked about, you know, men that don't work out and have low T and this and that, and they're depressed, and like I said, pop the Zoloft, which is full of estrogens, or act like it's an estrogen because it's petrochemical, and, you know, then feel less and less like men, and more, you know, I don't want to use words, but at home I would call it wussified, whatever that is, right? And the reality is, I mean, like you're saying, I mean, if we just get out there and do it, stop talking about it, stop reading it. I mean, knowledge is only as good as it goes. I mean, if it doesn't get applied, it's just pointless. I mean, I always say we're drowning in information, in knowledge, but what we really need is wisdom and practical application. And that's what I really love, Tony, about our conversation today. Because I mean, you gave us like real practical advice that, quite frankly, anyone can do. You know, and like you said, even taking that a bit further, you have books that people can get. That's a low dollar entry point, you know, into accessing your genius mind. And then for the people, which is everybody, that needs accountability and a coach. I mean, quite frankly, very few people, everybody I know that's successful always has a coach or two that they're working with. Everybody, all the time. Coaches have coaches. The coaches that you're going to have coaches. And that's just the way it goes, you know? And so if you get those books, you're like, I can do this, but I'm on the roller coaster of you know, creating a good habit and stability. I mean, what's cool is people can access you from anywhere around the world, whether it's, you know, the Midwest or the West or Dubai or wherever it happens to be. People can access Tony Torres, the genius behind this, and work with you for that coaching and accountability. And I appreciate, I literally learned a lot on this call, and I say that very strategically because I always think I know everything about everything, and I don't. I clearly don't. And that was a joke. I don't really think that. But man, you blow my mind on some concepts today, for sure. And I appreciate your time today, for sure.
I had someone come and buy a package where I have a package where they come to my house, they stay in my spare room, And in 5 days, get better faster. 5 days, he lost 17 pounds. I control the environment, controlled environment. I fed him, gave him the supplements. I have a machine here where I worked him out. I took him to my gym. We came back here. I cooked the dinner. I cooked the breakfast. I cooked everything. And in 5 days, 17 pounds.
And you're a chef. I mean, like, come on. This is,
you can't get better than that. But that goes to show you how fast things can happen when you're disciplined, right?
Well, I wanted to ask you that, we're wrapping up soon, but I just want to like put you into perspective. A man that was incarcerated for 5 years, had a movie made about him, has written 4 books, became an IBBF pro. Now you train people how to find the best of themselves so they can represent themselves out there in this jungle of a world that we all live in. And I think it's just really it's a really from almost rags to riches story that you came from nothing and made yourself into the man that we have on the show today. And I was going to ask you to tell like an intimate story about how you changed somebody's life. So thank you for doing that. But you did mention Dan Henry, and I don't know him well, but you said that this guy lives in Dubai. Can you wrap up with the Dan Henry story, and then I'll send us all home?
Absolutely. Well, I was on a Facebook group, and Dan Henry went on a Facebook group. I think Angie was on there, Jason, and he was asking on the Facebook group, does anybody know an IFBB pro? And I hadn't gotten to the Facebook group for maybe 3 hours later. And then when I saw the thread, I said, okay, that's Dan Henry. All right. And I replied, I said, hey, I'm an IFBB pro, here to serve you. If you have any questions, just let me know. And a couple hours later, he chimed back and he goes, hey, how are you? So on and so forth. So we got to talking, and he goes, look, I've had trainers, 2, 3, 4 trainers, and they have not been able to get me under 200 pounds. And, I perform on stage. I'm like, yeah, I know who you are. He didn't know that I knew who he was. So I said, yeah, I know who you are. So he goes, so you think you can do that? I said, well, I know I can do it. This is my world. You do what you do. Can you make me $1 million? He goes, well, yeah, it's my world. I'm like, wait, this is my world. I know I can get you under 200 pounds. He goes, okay, so, well, what do you charge me? And he goes, well, I don't want to charge you anything until I get you the result. Then we'll talk about what you can do for me. And he goes, okay, deal. And within 60 days, he went down to 168 pounds, 168. And he goes, Tony, I'm 168. I'm like, oh, that's great. No, he goes, well, can we go a little higher? I'm like, yeah, okay. So I adjusted the food, and he settled down 173, which he was happy at. So now I started watching his stuff, and now I call him. I'm like, Dan, do me a favor, man. You got to tailor your clothes now. You're wearing the fat Dan Henry clothes, and you're doing things, and your sleeves are too big. He goes, what do you mean? I'm like, look at you. You're all baggy. You look skinny in your stuff now. So then I was kind of forcing him to go get a tailor. Oh, I'll wait till Dubai to get a tailor. I said, go now, man. It's not a good look. He went, he got his stuff tailored, and now he looked like a guy popping out of his shirts, which changed the whole look. So a lot of people, they do not put thought to when they lose 30 pounds, they're still wearing their regular clothes. So they kind of don't look right, kind of look too big. They look sickly, and it's not that. They have to now buy new clothes or tailor their clothes to fit their new body, because they're no longer the person that they used to be.
Well, once again, we're a product of our environment. So thank you for creating new environments for people, mind, body, soul, because I think that's a big part of the way that people are, is if you can create new reality for them, you give them a new future. And let's see what happens with Dr. Jason Bradley over here and myself, because I think that we can both benefit from the coaching and the advice and the journey that we can both go on, because I'm not at my best. I mean, people have seen me at my best, and I'm definitely not there. Right. So I'm encouraged by the messages that you share, and I'm encouraged by our show that we have hosted you on today, because these are stories that people need. They need to hear these. And I know when Jason and I were jumping on the interview with you today, he's like, I really don't know what I'm going to talk to him about today. And I was like, I fucking do. Like, I'm going to have a transformational breakthrough for, if not the people listening, but for myself today. Because I know it's possible when you have a guy that's serious and driven.
Absolutely, 100%. I retired from bodybuilding, right? I reached the top. So So do you remember, Jason, when I was on stage at Steve's and I said, I got this martial arts thing that I'm doing with my kids. And because it's my kids, I said, I'm going all in. Well, I ended up 1 week prior to the contest, I ended up tearing my hamstring off the ischium, right off the bone, all three.
And that's when you and I bumped into each other at the wedding that broke the internet.
Yes.
And you were saying, okay, now I got the context for that because you told me about that. Okay.
Yes. And so it's been 6 weeks since my surgery. The Saturday just passed and I flew to New York and I fought 6 weeks after surgery. And so you had mentioned the being an example. Why would I be scared to do that after having surgery? If I don't do that, my kids don't look at me as a superhero. So I'm happy to report that I did, and I ended up winning first place.
Nice. Let's go.
Having not even fully recovered 6 weeks out of surgery, when the doctor was telling me nothing, just rehab after 12 weeks.
Right.
And here I am fighting 6 weeks later. And so, it's just do it. Do what you got to do. Don't be scared, man. Scared is going to keep you where you are now.
Well, Jason, I'm going to wrap things up. Do you have any closing remarks today?
Well, I mean, I just want to say again, Tony, thank you again for
thank you for having me.
Your transparency and your raw grit, because I think that, especially as a dad, and like I said, I worked on my body, but I want to get fit. And I think that we do kind of pussyfoot around things and we don't really talk straight, and you don't want to, we're in this culture where, God forbid you say the wrong word at the wrong time to the wrong person, and then everybody's offended. And now we got to have a conversation about how offended we are, and I need a safe space to have that. I just appreciate that you're just candid and you're real and you're raw and you're gritty. And honestly, like you level, we haven't even started working together officially. I've just been milking you for what I can every time I bump into you and we get interviewed and whatnot. But, you've literally already given me things to hang my hat on that I can say, oh, I get that now. And I just want to say thank you again, for your time. And every time, just for the listeners, Tony and I are in a group together and we bump into each other regularly. And every time I'm with you, Tony, man, you challenge me, and you challenge, my 26 years and my 3 doctorate degrees and my master's degree and my 4 board certifications and my who knows how many other certifications. But I mean, like, you challenge me and you're breaking it down, man. I mean, you've been chiseling away at the wall, and I didn't think that anybody could do it. And I'm like, God damn, Tony's done it, so thank you, man. I mean, I appreciate the challenge. I appreciate the learning. I can't wait to learn more with you, and I can't wait to have my Superman body. For our listeners, Jim always talks about the behind the scenes hijinks and tomfoolery. I'll post some before and after pictures. I will document my time with Tony, and we're gonna see if we get the Superman body by. I'm still shooting for Christmas. I know Jim said into New Year, but we're gonna see if we can do it, man. I love it. Thank you.
Thank you, guys. Thank you for having me.
Well, I'm going to send us home. Tony, it's been a real pleasure. Absolutely inspiring, eye-opening for not only as Dr. Jason sitting here gushing about how he's excited to work and do the work, but for our listeners who are ready to stop making excuses and to start making real challenges, Tony's Spartan Body Formula isn't just another fitness program. It's a complete transformation system. Read the books. It's designed for you specifically, but for busy fathers also who want to reclaim their health, energy, and confidence. This is about becoming the man your family needs you to be, the example your kids deserve to see. Remember, nobody's coming to save you, but solutions like Tony's Spartan Body Formula prove you can save yourself. Tony, thank you again for sharing your incredible journey and expertise with us. And to all of our Get Better Faster Nation, thank you for listening and for your continued support. You know that the best way to support the show it's to share the show. Share this episode with somebody who needs to hear it. Share this message, especially with any dad who's tired of feeling tired. And don't forget to subscribe, and so you never miss another episode of our incredible guests and get all the behind the scenes tomfoolery, like Jason was just mentioning, that we've got coming your way. We've got more incredible guests lined up who are going to blow your mind with real solutions for reclaiming your health, your happiness, and your life. Until next time, keep questioning everything and keep getting better faster. Tony and Jason, it was a great episode. Thank you for being on the Get Better Faster train with us, Tony. And I'm sure we're going to help more people. And I can't wait to see you soon.
Thank you, brother. Appreciate you guys.
Thanks, Tony. Thanks, James.
All right.
Love everybody.
Bye for now, guys.
Thanks for tuning in to the Get Better Faster podcast. Join the movement and visit getbetterfasterpodcast.com to find all our episodes, micro content, and resources to help you and your family get better faster.